All right, welcome, Cine-MANIACS. What's going on? The Indian Cine-MANIACS, I should say. How's it going?
Are we?
Great.
Is that right? Are we okay?
Dude, it's going so great.
You know what?
So
I just rolled through that, Drew. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
All right, we can fix that in post.
That's exactly right.
Hi,
so today we're going to do the Lunchbox, which we spun last week.
Yeah.
And John would like to recap the Lunchbox.
Well, now that I know when we recap these films, all we're doing is reading the description. So I figured, what the hell, I can do that. After watching Hater, I want to try to do it dramatically. This movie, 2013, The Lunchbox, a mistaken delivery in Mumbai's famously efficient lunchbox delivery system, connects a young housewife to an older man in the dusk of his life as they build a fantasy world together through notes in the lunchbox.
Well done.
I mean, that really says it all.
You said it.
I have to tell you a couple of things. One, this was recommended highly. I know everyone says, well, we get all kinds of recommendations. This one came up a lot that people wanted us to watch it. And this one surprised me. One, I loved it. It was so different from the other movies we've watched. It's a very quiet movie. It's a very character-driven movie. And I don't know if I got some name. Drew tell me. Irrfan Khan, who I believe passed away. Right? He's not with us anymore, right? Didn't he pass away? I think I read that.
He did.
Did he?
Irrfan Khan?
Yeah, he did.
Yes.
He died in 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
And
He was only 52, I think.
Yeah, he was young. And Nimrat Kaur, I'm pronouncing that right. And Ralph, you said Nawazuddin Siddiqui played. He was in the other movie.
He was Faisal in
Wassapur. He was.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that. Ralph told me that, and I could not believe it. I loved this movie, and the thing that I loved the most was the two leads. The way their acting was their facial expressions reacting to the notes. I found that just amazing to watch, and it ended, and of course there's going to be spoilers here for people who haven't seen it. The way it ended shocked me because, you know, if this was made in the United States, they would have lived happily ever after. They would have ran off together. This movie really ended, I kind of thought, on a down note, that they were both stuck in their lonely existence, his by himself and her with a husband that presumably was cheating on her. But the sadness in both their eyes throughout this movie was just absolutely captivating to me. And not only that, but and Ralph and I already talked about this. We always talk about places you've never seen before. This whole lunch thing that I knew nothing about is such a big deal there, and it's so efficient and like 99.9% accurate.
Because we had the Harvard check it out. The Harvard checked it out.
That's right. He kept saying that. Harvard
checked it out.
Right. It was just such a good movie, and it's a slow movie. It's not a fast movie, but it was only an hour and 45 minutes, and it didn't bother me at all. I was into these characters. I felt sad for both of them. And that scene where he explained why he didn't meet her in the restaurant was just, I was like, what a powerful scene. And the fact that because of that, he didn't have the courage to speak to her, even though he sat there and watched her. So I absolutely loved this movie. I thought it was great. And the three main leads were really wonderful in this movie. So yeah, I'm really happy I saw this one.
Yes, it's a melancholy film. It's definitely a film,
it is.
It's heavy, but it had such delightful moments in there that just made me smile. And I had the opposite reaction. I felt like that ending was uplifting, like they may get together. I mean,
yep. That's how I read it too.
He's in the train or whatever there's with the I love the way they figured out where each one of them was. That was fun. Yeah. And the guy that played his young assistant, who played Faisal in the other film.
I can't believe that was Faisal.
Yeah, I know. I said the same thing.
I just, at first I'm like, what's the deal with him? He kept saying I'm an orphan, and how that ended up playing into it. But there's a scene where he has lunch, where they sit together finally, and the older gentleman shares the lunch with him. And the look on his face when he had that first bite, and the joy on his face was just like, it just lit up the whole thing. I was amazed by that. And then how he ended up becoming a big part of this gentleman's life. And you're talking about that scene in the bathroom where he realizes he smells his grandfather, and how he realized how old he is. And I mean, that struck a nerve because as we get older, you kind of realize you don't have the same play you used to have, and things are a little different. And
the way you see yourself isn't the way others see you.
Well, ultimately, you realize yeah. But I mean, yes, it was a melancholy film. It was dark in places. Yeah. The story about the woman who jumps off the roof with her daughter, and that scene, the way they played that scene, where he hears a story about that, and the lunches are coming in the next day, and the way the way the tension about is that lunchbox going to end up on his desk was palatable, and I thought this film was terrific, and I had
they even had a little misdirection because there was a scene where she was in her bed and she started taking off her jewelry, just like the scene.
Right. I mean, they played it up like it was going to be her.
So you're like, is this what's happening next?
Toyed with us a little bit.
Yeah.
But yes, it was a movie about people who were kind of lost in the places they were in. You know, how you get lost in a big city. You know, people don't recognize you in a big city. But I was fascinated by the lunchbox thing going on. I guess that is a real thing.
I
enjoyed it. And the hour and 46 flew by for me. I couldn't get enough of this film.
Yeah.
So
that's the difference between this film and a lot of the Indian films is this one, in my opinion, you're in it right from the beginning. Usually in a lot of the films, especially the bigger, more epic ones, it takes a while to establish the characters and what's going on. And they start in like 1930, and then you skip to 1947, then you're in hear the
Sean, if you can't see when the main character's mother was born, like actually see it, then you don't really get a sense of the character.
Yeah, this was a rare instance.
Well, actually, when he was born, we'd be seeing his birth.
Yeah, we'd be seeing
Mr.
his birth.
Fernandez. Last name is
Fernandez.
Ferdinand.
Sergeant Fernandez.
I mean, this is the most grounded out of the ones the most like what we're used to seeing here in the United States. It was the most, I mean, it's not really a rom-com, but it is the most
normal storytelling.
I mean, I was going to say straightforward storytelling.
Yeah, but well, I mean, you can make the argument the other ones are too.
Well, nobody was swinging off, motorcycles, and people weren't.
And there was no dancing.
Right.
No musical numbers. I mean, there was music. Music was predominant in it.
Yeah.
But not a lot of dancing. There was no dancing. And they're called, by the way, Dabbawalas, the lunch people who deliver the lunch, Dabbawalas. So I just want to make sure we say that because that's a big deal out there.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. Debbie, what do you think?
I love this film. Yeah. I think it depicted a woman in a situation, and what I loved about what it said was a woman's desperation to, hang on. I mean, obviously her husband is seeing somebody else, and the idea of the woman with her child, taking her child to the top of the building and jumping off. Because in India, it's such a population. I mean, if a woman, and it seemed to me that was her gig, was being a wife, that was her job. And when you lose your job through your husband, that's a whole terrible situation a woman finds herself in. So to me, it spoke volumes of what the care that she put into that lunch, the love, but it was just totally dismissed by her husband, and he went for another woman. And it was just heartbreaking to see her, desperation. But the guy that was lucky enough to get the mistaken lunchbox, he knew it. He knew the love that went into that lunch, and he saw something intangible that you cannot see. A lot of people just move through their lives and they don't recognize the beauty and the acts of kindness that have been done to them. And it was a beautiful love story, and very subtly done, very subtly, because that's how love is sometimes.
Well, to me, there's a bunch of characters in here that we haven't talked about. The auntie that she talks to, that lives in the auntie above her. All these people are trapped in situations that they really can't get out of. Auntie has the husband she's taking care of that looks at the ceiling fan. She's got the husband.
She does. She cleans the ceiling fan without taking the electricity off.
Because if it stops, he dies. So she's taking care of. Our protagonist's mother is living with a father who's dying of cancer. So she's stuck in that relationship.
And she's very unhappy at the end. She said she could.
And our guy is stuck in his relationship with his dead wife. I mean, he's still obsessing about his dead wife. So they're all kind of trapped. And this was the one time that they were going to get out of it and maybe have a life. And it ends on that note of you don't know. And I'm going the positive route, which is just my brain.
I'm going positive.
I mean, because the movie is very, very melancholy and sad. And there's death everywhere. There's the cry. It's just amazing themed film that you feel for everybody in it. You really felt you wanted those two to get together. There's no question. I think.
Well, they fell in love through the notes without ever seeing each other. I mean, meeting each other. That's pretty amazing.
It's funny. I toward the end there, when he's obviously searching for her in those last scenes, I actually kind of didn't like that part very much.
Really?
Because I actually looked at it a little differently than you, John, in the sense that I looked at it as, here's a man who has the courage not to go up and talk to her in that restaurant. Here's a woman who's young and gorgeous, and he knows that from their conversations through the notes, that she would probably accept him, even though he's an older widower about to become a retiree. I actually give him in the character and is it Irrfan Khan? I don't want to mess that up too badly, but
Irrfan
Khan. Thank you. He plays it with such subtlety, but yet so heartfelt. I felt like he truly did not. He looked at her and said, "I can't saddle her with me." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I do. I see that because
he doesn't want to be, and who knows? And then because there are multiple times, when she's talking to these people who have these older, and maybe not older, but invalid men in their lives that are.
And he didn't want to do that to her.
Wrong, they're anchors. He didn't want to be that.
Right. No, that's a good read on that. Yeah, I agree with that.
Except that I think his little buddy there kind of pulled him out of that. Mm-hmm. His little buddy made him feel like you got a reason. You're a good man, and you bring a lot to the table. I want you to be beside me when I get married. I mean, there was that relationship is the other relationship that kind of brought him to the point where he wanted to go find her. He felt like he was alive again, is how I read that. That
relationship was very touching too.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that was
really when the guy is so eager.
Yeah. Sir.
And he just doesn't want to have anything to do with him. But when he discovers the guy's backstory, now he's an orphan, how he has nothing, and he finally goes, "You're not going to train me. I'm going to have to learn. You're like everyone else, You don't care, and you're just going to I'm going to have to do this on my own."
And then he ended up saving him on the job.
Growth, in a sense, for both characters, and it does give him the courage to, I think, at the end, all we needed for a rom-com was that race to the airport, which is
I thought when he had him on the scooter, he was
going to bring him to him. That's what I thought too. Yeah,
the daughter and this.
Did you say race to Poontang?
Not the Poontang.
I thought
the Bhutan.
Sorry, I misunderstood you.
It was also a race to Poontang.
I've been dying to use that.
Just ruined that beautiful story.
Oh my God, Drew, go ahead. Drew, help us here.
Get part of the story is they have that smolder. All those letters and all those spices.
Well, remember his first few letters were critical of her food.
Well, one said it was too salty, and then she burned
too salty, and he was very because
but don't you know that's sometimes an attraction?
Okay, maybe. I mean, I think he was in the insurance business for 35 years, and that's just how he treated everybody. He pushed a cat. He kicked a cat and walked away.
No, he kicked a person. He said.
No, he said a blind person. He shoved a blind guy in front of a bus.
Yeah.
All right, Drew, jump in.
Yeah, he was set up. He could have slapped a whole bunch of children at once in the early part of the movie.
It would have been acceptable. Yeah, that would have been acceptable.
I thought it was a very sweet, honest movie. There's a whole bunch of movies that I really like that are about what it's like to get old. And some of them give you a sense of what it might feel like to get old. And people that I've watched it with that are older than me, like a couple of these movies I've watched with my grandmother, because I thought this feels real, and I would ask her about it, and she said that it felt more honest, because a lot of times you spend your life thinking about what it's like for other people to get old and not what it is to be old, and this movie had a lot of nice little touches and moments, like his smell and everything. And I mean, when he first gets that first lunch, you're watching a guy open a lunchbox and watching his face as he discovers that something tastes really good.
Yeah.
And he hasn't had anything like that in a long time. And he probably thought, like, I don't really care about really much of anything.
I love that he went back and complimented the little place he thought it was from.
Yeah. And
goes,
it turns out it wasn't cauliflower. So yeah, no, it was very sweet. And it's interesting because I wrote down some of the movies that I like that are about getting old, and some of them have much more extreme reactions. Like I thought of there's two films with Frank Langella. One of them is Robot and Frank, where he plays a guy that's an aging jewel thief, and his son gives him a robot to like keep him safe and keep him from falling. And he says to this robot, "We're gonna, like do a robbery together." But you see him reaching back for his youth, and that's not what this movie is about. And Starting Out in the Evening with Frank Langella is about him trying to, use his reputation as a famous writer to have sex with young Lauren Ambrose. And that's not really what Irrfan Khan's character is looking for either. And then even stuff like Jackass Forever, that whole movie is about getting old and
what about the film we reviewed, the film about the guy that goes over the German. That was all about old British guys want to relive their youth. What was that film?
The Looking Glass.
Looking Glass.
Yeah.
Looking Glass.
Oh yeah, no, that's a much more destructive version. But to me, this one it reminded me most of. Did you guys ever see Beginners with Christopher Plummer? I think that's the one he won the Oscar for. It's with Ewan McGregor, and Christopher Plummer is his father. And Ewan McGregor is trying to deal with his father just being older and having health problems. And then his father's like, you know what? I'm actually 80 years old and I'm gay. And I'm going to come out and live my life as who I really am, that I never was. And it's a really kind of beautiful, joyful movie. And he sort of sets an example of what Ewan McGregor can do in his own life. And I like that wasn't part of this either. This wasn't Irrfan Khan setting an example for Faisal how to live. Faisal was basically saying, like, there's more to you than you think, but not even realizing he was doing that, because I don't think that our main character was obsessed with his dead wife. I think that he shut off when she died, and all the things that he was supposed to have or thought that he would have in his life, which I don't know if they would have made him happy or not, they didn't happen. He didn't have a kid. He didn't have someone to grow old with and to take care of. And the way that I read the ending was two people who are not having what they're supposed to have, who by luck crossed paths. And I read it as, I don't know if they're going to run off to Bhutan together or not. And I was kind of wondering if the movie would end exactly where it ended, or if it would end with her answering the door and him saying her name. And I would have been okay with either of those, but I normally don't like movies that feel like they end like a few moments too early, like a certain Oscar nominee about sadness. But this one, I thought it was just the right choice to end it where it ended it, because you can read different things into it that are all legitimate. It's not like, oh, I didn't end it, so I don't know what happened. It's like I kind of think it would go this way. I kind of think it would go that way, and all those things are actually quite plausible. But you hope for the positive ones. I hope for both of them. And I thought that was a nice experience. And it was definitely smaller scale than anything else we've watched for the show.
Definitely.
Well, and it's the one time I've seen, like most of our American...
It's as earnest as the other ones.
Yeah, most of our American films, the old guy always ends up with the young woman anyway. And there's no question that that discrepancy in movies is skews to old guys getting any woman they want. This was a guy who...
The guys do.
What's that?
In Hollywood, the guys do.
In the films, they do. Well, you mean in general?
In real life too.
Yeah, well, maybe, but that's all money. But
Harold and Maude.
Well,
the old one got the young guy.
That's a quirky one. But this is a guy who was feeling all his age and just didn't want to participate anymore, and was trying to get her off the hook. He took her off the hook by not meeting her at the restaurant.
Right, but that's not his call.
Because he cared so much. And what woman doesn't love to be cared for? I think that is like what that movie was so beautiful, is because each one of those persons offered so much. They gave up everything they had. Him being his retirement, I'm supposing he's set. And he's going to take care of her. And she is definitely going to take care of him. They're going to have a great life. I mean, it's the twilights of his years, but she'll have support for her child, and
it's not even the twilight yet. It's
He's
not
young.
even. I mean, what? He's in his 50s or something. That's the
that's
thing.
what I
He
mean.
thinks
Well,
he's
in real
older than
life,
he
that's
is.
all he had.
Until
Well,
he
wait,
brought
this
up,
was in 2014, so he was in his 40s.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, but his character had been working
Oh,
for
he
35
retired after
years.
35 years.
he was
Oh, that's
working
true.
for-
That's true. Right.
But
I mean-
until he made the comment about smelling like his grandfather or smelling his grandfather, I never looked at him as being old. I just
But
knew
he-
he was
Right.
tired
He
and
didn't
been
seem
doing
as
it a
old
while and was
as he
was-
thinks he is,
right.
Right.
which is important, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think that's one thing when you're a certain age, which I'm going to be turning 68 on Monday. It's going to be my birthday. And one thing you think of when you're older, I mean, not when you guys, because you all are very young, but
Particularly Ralph.
Oh, Ralph.
yeah, everybody's so much younger than me. But I'm saying you think about, when you were young. I think about my mother and my father. They were so young. And it's like a great perspective when you realize you've got you've got so many years left and you want to make them count. It's like a lot, you got to do a lot of living in those last few years you got.
And Fernandez
Make
could
the
have done
best of
it.
it.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that's
Musical
what Faisal's character, the guy, it's not Faisal, I know. The guy
I know,
who
we keep
played-
calling him Faisal.
I know, because it's so, when I heard that, I was just so happy. And he was such a nut. He was charming. And he was a bit of a scamp too. I mean, you knew he was a little bit of a cut and
But once they
vegetables
shared
and
their
all that.
meal, that's what broke the ice for them.
Well, he kept asking
Once they
more for
shared that
dinner,
meal,
kept asking, and then
Yeah.
it's just, I think he rounded out this character for me and really just brought some joy there that was missing. That guy had no joy, and this kid was his
Right.
only joy. And now he realizes he
lunch.
watches his wife's old TV shows and he remembers her face
Right.
in the thing. All these things were flooding back for him.
He's probably frozen, I mean.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I meant by,
But that doesn't mean that he can't come back to life. I mean, you freeze something and it,
I think that's what the movie was heading to before it cut to black so quick. So,
But I
never
thought
saw
like,
it.
It was already
I
there.
didn't,
Before.
I didn't
But
think
I
they were
also
getting back
love when
together,
she-
but I thought he was willing to open himself up. And he
I just
wasn't
love the
prior to this,
scene
so
too where
fantastic.
she's telling the guy who delivered the lunch boxes that he delivered to the wrong address, and he's like, "No, that's impossible. Harvard came here.
Harvard
They
says
said
it.
our system
Harvard,
is the
yeah.
most."
came there.
Margaret Thatcher said we're
Yeah,
doing
that's right.
Right.
That's
that
why-
scene
that's
set
why
up
Mickey-
something else that would have definitely happened in an American film because it was going to the same building. That meant her husband
Worked there.
and Fernandez
Oh,
worked
I
at
didn't.
the
I didn't
same
catch
building.
that.
Oh no, they
Yeah.
said it's going to this building, and it was the right.
Ah.
It was the husband's. That's how she knew where it was.
But if it's so
Interesting.
efficient, why did it never get corrected?
Well, because they have to believe that it's possible for there to be a mistake, and they don't believe it's
Yeah.
possible.
Oh.
When the guy made the movie, he said he was gonna make a documentary about this
I saw
Dabbawalas
that, yeah.
system, and then he sort of thought about the stories that these people would hear and the lives they would pass through, and he decided to write something fictional. But he had to tread very carefully in how he set up the story,
Right.
because this is like the business is essentially a multi-generational family organization, that this is what they do. They are the best. They are essentially unique in the world with the scale of what they do. And so to write a story that the whole thing hinges on, maybe they made a mistake one time,
And
is actually
also-
kind of a big deal for him to
Yeah.
to say that.
Yeah.
And also, Alfred Hitchcock would say it's a MacGuffin.
Well,
Yeah.
the lunchbox wasn't a MacGuffin in this one. The lunchbox was
It was the
whole-
catalyst.
The mistaken.
the whole story.
It's
box
the
was
catalyst.
a different-
Yeah, it
The
mattered
mistake-
that it was a lunchbox.
The
Because
MacGuffin, the
what it
MacGuffin
conveyed.
was the fake. That's where he thought she was going to commit suicide. She's the one that committed suicide.
Oh yeah. Before
To me,
the lunch
that's the
showed up.
MacGuffin because that now
Yeah.
gets you back
Oh,
in the
yeah,
room,
that
Yeah,
and
that's
you're
true.
wondering if
Second
that
out, I'm thinking
lunchbox
it's
is going to end up on his
possible.
desk. And when it ends up on his desk, you go, "Oh, thank
Yeah,
goodness!
you're relieved.
Oh my goodness!"
Weren't you all just like really relieved?
100%. That's
Well, it was
what I
only
mean.
halfway through the movie, so you know
Yeah.
she wasn't
I
killing
also
herself.
love the
I mean, come on.
lunchbox. I love
Lunch.
those little dishes and the metal
Yeah.
thing that,
And Auntie putting all the
and
ingredients
Auntie
down from
dropping
above.
the ingredients in the
Auntie,
basket.
I love every time she did that. I
It's
just love it.
what a charming
Auntie.
film, and I can see why that guy was such a well-regarded actor. In
Well,
India, 'cause
we've
he-
seen him in other stuff.
Yeah, we've seen him.
But
But
stuff.
I didn't realize how big he was in India. I
had
did
no
not
idea.
know how big he was.
He's huge, and he's
Yeah.
been in big movies here too. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
he's so wonderful.
Now,
wonderful
another
actor.
culture that does that, the woman makes a lunch in Italy. The women in those days in Italy, traditionally, they're farmers. So the men would go out in the fields and work the field, and then around noon or 12 or 1.
Lunchtime. Let's just say lunchtime.
She would pack up the, the lunch, and they would go and have a picnic in the field. And that would, they would have wine, and they would have their, siesta. And she would, pack it all back and come back. So that's like and I think in South America they do that too when it's so hot.
Any other countries where they do that? Anybody?
So
Where
was
they serve
she?
lunch?
So okay, back to her.
Can eat the saw.
Two things. So she was literally just making a lunch for her husband. She didn't have a business of making lunch. And
Right.
two,
No.
I thought she was going to leave her daughter at the school.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to say, the husband's got to take care of the daughter, but that's not what happened. She was waiting for her to come home.
Well, I think she was thinking about that, and I think
she
we
might have
see
been.
her thinking about that, but we also think that would not be a kind decision, and I'm glad she didn't make that
Well,
choice.
it was so sad seeing her show the honeymoon dress to her husband, and he was just completely.
I'm like, I would take the hint.
Well, yeah, but you actually love your wife, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you do. So that was
I loved
heartbreaking.
it.
She was, and I guess she's in Homeland, huh? She plays in Homeland.
Yeah, she's a Pakistani agent or something.
Yeah. So
Oh,
she's
she
very
is?
good.
I've never
Yeah.
seen her before. She was very good. They did so much. Both of them did so much with just their eyes. It was
Yeah.
incredible to watch.
and they're
that.
both very sad people. I mean, they
Yeah.
really expressed that.
Yeah,
I don't know
absolutely.
if they were sad. They were contemplative, I thought.
No.
I think they were.
No,
No,
very
they were sad.
Yeah,
They were sad at where they were and what
Yeah,
they
I
were
think they were
doing, and
sad.
that's why I think they grabbed on like almost literally to the handle of a lunchbox to see
Yeah.
where it might take them.
Yeah, and
I mean,
just
that's
like
the thing. These movies that are about being old, I like that they can ring true on different scales. I didn't mention the one other movie that's one of my favorite movies about being old, and I was able to share it with my grandmother, which is Up, which is 10 minutes of dreadful sorrow right when the movie begins. That's very real and very wonderful. And then at the end of the movie, even though there's been this huge adventure, you basically have two characters that are no longer lonely and have a real, beautiful emotional role in each other's lives. And I think that that's where I want these characters to end up. And that's not as explicit as now they live together in Bhutan. Like I want them to meet. I want them to touch hands. I want them to look into each other's eyes at the same time. And I think the movie says that could happen. And that was a nice way to end it.
I thought you were going to bring up Mad Max Fury Road and how Immortan Joe. That's not him.
Well, he fights being old to the
with
point
all
that
the
everything
babies.
about him is a fiction, and these people they don't even really have the energy to pretend to be, happy about retiring to Nasik or happy
and
about being a wife or anything.
our guy is going to have a relationship with his assistant, who's now running his old office. So I feel like I projected a lot of what I hope is going to happen to the end of the film because I just loved that kid.
That was very helpful.
That was great.
I just thought he was that one scene where he opens he has a first bite of that food, just the look and the smile on his face when he's got the banana and the apple that they get every day because they're inexpensive.
Well, then he started bringing one for the other guy.
Right.
Too.
No, it's just that relationship was beautiful. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah,
Anybody
I love
else? Go ahead, Chris.
Like just one last thing though,
Yeah.
Talking about the lunchbox and how it disassembles. One of my favorite parts was when like he holds it. He's like, there's nothing in here, but he keeps opening it. I almost thought we didn't need that down shot of actually seeing the
empty ones.
But you could just feel her anger. So every time
exactly.
it's like, you could just feel her like her just anger at him for not showing up and for really hurting her in a lot of ways. Even though I think that he actually did it for what he felt were the right reasons. But
But even that scene when they flash back and they showed him in the place, the look of longing in his face and the look of anger on her face of him not showing up was really powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was. Because I agree with you. I think he wanted to do the right thing, but he wanted to go to her. He even said how beautiful she was. So that was a really powerful scene when they showed that. Yeah. Well,
he should have. And then at the end, I think he does.
Well, it's also the fear of rejection too. She's that young and beautiful. She may just go, you know what, you're too old for me, and then he's got to deal with that.
At that point, did they really think that? I mean,
I don't know. They're just
because they
writing
really
stuff.
connected with each other. I don't think that would have happened.
Listen,
at least
she was
my
in
mind.
such a desperate situation. That situation is horrible when you're in a relationship with someone.
But wait, it didn't start as desperate as it ended up.
Yeah.
When the mistake first happened, she was not desperate. She was in a humdrum marriage, that's for sure.
Yeah,
and he
she
didn't even
didn't know
recognize
what he
that
was
she
doing.
didn't.
No, the
he didn't get the
desperation
right
built
lunch.
as she's smelling
That's
his
right.
clothes
That's
and
what I'm
realizing
saying.
that.
Then
Right.
it became
No,
that.
John's
that
right,
I
that's
agree.
And
later.
that's the problem with marriage, that one person has more power than the next. And that's where it gets nasty. You know what I mean? That's where divorces get ugly, is when one person has more power than the other person. It should be an equal power
That's what I say.
thing, you know?
Absolutely.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Well,
he
it's worked
seems
so
like,
far.
I mean, he didn't,
Yeah,
that guy, her husband didn't come off very well.
That is the wonderful thing about marriage. It's always, and I like the way they had that friction to begin with, the retiree and the young girl, and the woman whose husband disregarded her, is the fact that there was that tension to begin with. That is what makes, that's what's exciting about life, you know, in the struggle of marriage, wouldn't you say?
Tension?
No, I mean, it's why it feels very relatable and very real, because if
There
you've
is
been
a
in a
scene
relationship,
that-
then you
and
can
you'll
feel
have
tension
the,
in my
the
marriage.
familiarity of it.
What movie are you talking about then?
This movie is with, I can't think of her name, for crying out loud.
Woman?
Yeah,
Taboo?
she's a woman.
Black and white color?
Are we going to guess literally every
All right,
actress?
here we go. We can't do
Everyone?
this.
Okay, well,
No, they'll never subscribe.
And she pretends her husband is really not her husband, but it's her husband's brother comes back.
That's
And
Ilhan
she's
Omar.
trying,
isn't
and
it?
he was
That
a real.
hater?
Her husband was a real bastard, and this guy that comes there is
Is
just
it the Searchers?
The man
No.
from Snowy River.
no, and she's
The
trying
movie,
not
I
to
think.
like this. Her
I love
brother,
that.
it would be her brother-in-law that comes back. He's dead. Her husband did die, but her brother-in-law is coming in.
Okay.
To
You don't know the
life.
title. You don't know the actress.
Sean does. He's just
Okay.
not thinking.
All right. Just stop. Here we go. And
No. I do want to say
Zooby Doo
I
or
forgot.
Zooby Don't. Once that happens, we're done. So, John, Zooby Doo or Zooby Don't?
Big Zooby Doo for me.
Sean and Debbie?
Zooby Doo.
Zooby Doo?
Chris?
Zooby Doo, really solid all
Yeah.
the way through. Sweet.
Drew.
Yeah, Zooby Doo. It's a good movie, and I'm not surprised that it got some traction in the film festival circuit here. So that's nice because you can find some good interviews with the director and Irrfan Khan being interviewed at like Toronto and stuff like that, and it's interesting.
Hey, Drew, I have a question
Wait a
for you.
minute. Can I rate now or not?
Well, I know what you think. You're going to say it's
really?
delightful.
We
We
don't.
You're going to
don't.
say it's delightful.
It was delightful.
I know.
Zooby Doo.
See?
There you go.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I
That's
wanted to
a
ask you.
full slate of Zooby Doos.
The Oscars came out.
Return.
Well, I wanted to address
That's
that.
what I want to know. Yeah.
Thank you. So, movies in the world, movies are a place where dreams can come true. And I have been expressing a small dream of mine, probably every episode of the show since we originally watched RRR. And I'd like to thank the Academy for making my dream come true, because they did, in fact, give RRR one Oscar nomination today. It's for Not To for Best Song, which means they will have to perform it live at the Oscars. And I think the Oscars are fun to watch, and I look forward to watching them. But I don't think I've ever been this excited to watch the Oscars since Mad Max Fury Road was up for 10 of them. So
Aren't
that's
you
pretty
disappointed
exciting.
that it didn't
But
get
how are they
nominated
gonna-
for Best Picture?
I am very disappointed it didn't get nominated for Best Picture. I'm
Yeah.
not shocked.
Or
The one
Best
that would
Director.
have been a really crazy surprise, but possible, would have been if Rajamouli got nominated for
Best Director.
a Best Director. But if they had gotten nominated for Best Picture, I would have said they did it. They did The Long Shot, and when I watched it, I watched it live at my desk just to see, what was happening with it. And when it got to, I think Tar was the first letter past R, and I was like, oh, they didn't get it. But I have seen, I think, 3 of the movies that are nominated of the 10 for Best Picture, and RRR is definitely better than a couple of them. So
Yeah, I was really surprised with 10 nominations.
disappointed.
It didn't get one. I was surprised, but I didn't expect it to win, but I thought it would
Yeah.
at least get nominated.
there are definitely surprises. I mean, I think Women Talking might have taken that slot. I haven't seen that yet. I'd love to. It's Sarah Polley's new movie, and I think Andrea Riseborough getting a Best Actress nomination for To Leslie. What is that movie? I don't know anything about that movie, and she got a nomination. So there's always going to be like weird little surprises, but RRR really getting the nomination, getting the attention it's gotten was just really satisfying. So
I
I
got
was
two-
excited.
I was
questions.
pretty happy about everything all at once.
2 questions.
They did
for
really
you.
well.
11
does this-
nominations or something.
Where does this movie fit with your Mad Max Fury Road? Is it?
I mean, it's up there. If Mad Max Fury Road is number 1, 10 out of 10, this is like 9.7 out of 10. I mean, it's spectacular.
Wow.
And
I've never had a favorite movie before until I got Fury Road, so I haven't really thought about ranking. Like, well, what is RRR compared to E.T. or other movies that I just have loved my whole life?
Yeah.
And because I'm so much younger than you guys, my whole life, and I think. I don't really feel the need to rank them. It's just
cool.
that
That is
like
really
Fury
cool.
Road. Well, you're old. You'll forget that I said that. But Fury Road sort of towers over everything for me because it's the best thing of the form I've ever seen. RRR is the most exhilarating thing I've seen in a movie in a long time. And I watched it for the 4th time this weekend with some friends who were like, all right, come over. Let's watch this movie. And they loved it. And I loved watching it. And I love watching
You're
it.
more
I'm
than The
pushing it.
Mandalorian?
Yes, I do think it's better than The Mandalorian.
I'm
but I do
pushing it
enjoy
on
The
everybody
Mandalorian.
I talk to. So,
Me too. Same
and the
thing.
second question I had is, how do you think the Oscars are going to ruin Nacho?
Well,
What do you think they're going to do?
if they let them do it, they won't.
Well,
win.
I don't.
If
That's
they
what I'm
let
asking. Do you think
Boys
they'll
to
have
Men
this?
do it,
Who are
it's
the
gonna
stompers?
suck.
Who are the people who bang on?
Well, I mean, they've nominated the Indian composer, and when the various social media accounts, SS Rajamouli posted congratulations and how proud he was, and he name checked like the lyricist and the choreographer, and of course the actors and other people. So I don't think that what happens is that NTR Jr. and Ramchran get up there and do the dance. But I think that you know maybe they talk to Prem who choreographed it and says, all right, we'll come and let's do this, because it's such a huge moment for India on the international stage that it's exciting to see. I don't know what they'll do. God knows
I don't know how
Oscars
they're
have done
gonna-
all
I
sorts
don't
of
know.
stupid
I
things
got
in
a
the past.
question.
But
That is such
They'll
a
do some
specific thing.
interpretive dance for that song.
That's what
they'll
I
do.
mean.
well,
they're gonna
after the
kill it.
year of Crash, where they
Or they'll
actually
just
did
have
that,
it playing
you
in the
know.
back, and there'll be people doing something in front of it.
Yeah.
I want
Could
to
be.
know who's going to get slapped this Oscars.
They'll probably have a shield up so that can't happen again. Oh, that's a slow rim shot, Ralph.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think
That is a slow
the
one.
slap. And John, I never told you this, but you smell a little like Papa. But okay. All right.
Oh, I do want to add one thing that
Okay.
our former guest, Trish, who was here for Bride of Frankenstein, watched the Lunchbox with us.
Oh.
She really liked it
She
too.
loved it too.
She would be Scooby-Doo up.
A Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
That is so
She would be Velma up.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
yeah.
And then there's
I've heard
the
that's
bad
not
one.
good.
How about this?
Oh, I heard that's a
Scooby-Doo?
Yeah.
classic.
How
All
about-
right.
If you don't
No
like
more-
it, it's a
no more.
Scooby-Doo.
Debbie. No more. All right. Let's go to the wheel for the next show. All right. Here we go. We got how many left? About 7 or 8 left. What
A
are
lot
you
of
guys
people are
rooting for?
suggesting new
I know
ones.
what John's rooting for.
I mean, it's
You
7,
know.
but only because I counted them. So
Amir Khan. Anything with Amir Khan.
Here we go.
Like
Come on.
Stars from the Earth.
Lagan.
Ah,
Great choice.
good. I've been wanting to see this one.
Okay.
All right. What's this one
Egon's
about?
Egon's are $14 a dozen. Oh, wait, that's
Ega
something else.
is by the director of an Oscar-nominated movie called RRR. It's an SS Rajamouli movie from I think about 2012, and it's your classic story of a young man who has a crush on a lady who hasn't really shouldn't give him the time of day, and then right as she might actually go for him, he gets kidnapped and murdered by the gangster that has interest in her as well, and he comes back as a fly for revenge.
Oh, this
And
is that one. Oh man.
Yeah,
He comes back as a fly.
It's fucking great.
It's supposed
It's
to be
great.
great. I've heard about
No, I've
this
seen
one.
it. It's fantastic. You
Yeah.
can only rent it or buy it on YouTube, and it was one of those things where it was like $3.99 to rent it and $4.99 to buy it. So I bought it. Whatever the version is on YouTube, I can't remember it. There's
Oh my
so many different
God.
languages to choose from. It's not.
So it's
not
funny?
the best
It's gotta
choice.
be.
It's very funny. It's
Okay.
very nasty. It's very clever. It's very moving. It's very Rajamouli, and I think
man,
you guys will
this is
really
awesome.
like it. It's
Can't
great.
wait to see it.
All right.
So great.
All
Egon.
Good spin.
Yeah, that means housefly.
Okay.
John, we're getting closer to Lagan. Don't worry. We're
I
getting
hope so,
closer.
man. I'm telling you.
Or
I might
the,
just watch
you know,
it
the
anyway
other
that
one,
way.
the,
PK.
The Forrest
PK.
Gump one. That may happen too. so.
No. Oh, is that
Oh,
on the
God.
wheel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Oh.
All right. So there you go. Another good week down. Lunchbox. Fantastic film. And I can't wait to watch this next one.
And I'll be
so-
back at home base next week.
Okay.
Good.
Back in the
All right.
studio.
All right.
So
Everybody have a good week, and we'll see you at the next Cine-MANIAC event.
thanks, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, smash the like button. We appreciate all your comments. Keep it up. Keep it up.
There you go. Enough said, right?
Enough said.
Namaste.
Happy Republic Day.
Yes, Happy Republic
Oh,
Day,
Happy
everybody.
Republic Day. That's right. We're supposed to celebrate. I forgot about that. Happy Republic Day, everybody.
By the time this comes out, it will have passed, but Happy Republic Day.
Hey, the thought's still there, Chris.